budget we spent on public safety. So I added public safety funds, and I added trial courts, county fire. I came up with $30,800,066 and $666. Total cost of $62,665,439 for a net. I divide those two. I came up with 49.15% of total dollars spent on, and I consider that all kind of public safety. The only thing that we don't really have wrapped in there is anything for roads, or I don't see that in there. That's kind of public safety too, because it's important the public be able to commute safely from point A to point B. Is that 49.15%? Is that typical for counties to spend on public safety?
Yeah, it depends on the county, but it's probably pretty comparable. And, you know, once again, remember, this is just a general fund. And so this isn't the county budget as a whole.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's about average.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay. So I actually.
Sorry,
through the chair.
I'm sorry.
So the DSA and fire, like the essential workers, and their pay was about $750,000 that were able to use ARPA funds for. How do we? Is that going to be the same going forward in this budget?
I beg your pardon. Oh, so are you saying that what we used ARPA funds for last year?
Yes.
Well, we can. I mean, we can use the ARPA funds, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. But basically, the ARPA funds, the calculation that the federal government has given us has allowed us to capture the entirety of the ARPA funds, $18.8 million, as revenue loss, which gives the board a lot more discretion. You don't have to fit within their specific silos. You just can't use it for certain things like reserves, with pension pre-funding, or to offset a tax reduction. So, and I'll go through that in the final slide.
All right.
So okay.
Sorry, I'm just going to put this out there. This has to do with a budget. Earlier, we were asked about, Ms. Jaeger asked about audits and so forth. Where are we at with, you know, we just had the study done with the Sheriff's Department, which was a great study and showed the City of Live Oak and their shortfall, I should say, on with the sheriff and so forth. And I know our fire chief is working on the same thing with the City of Live Oak as well, and the new negotiation, the new contract. So as we work on these budgets, we've already implemented this. The Sheriff's Department's already been done working with the fire right now to find out, because when you see that 3.2, that's what we're cutting into. One thing is, have we figured out the Live Oak boat ramp and the City of Yuba City boat ramp? How long are we? If you don't mind, Ken, would you mind stepping up for a minute, please? He comes prepared. Look at that. He's ready to go. Ken, how long do we have left on both ramps? I believe it's getting pretty close, isn't it?
So for City of Yuba City, we're actually done with our grant obligations there.
And how much does that cost us a year?
So for City of Yuba City, 1 second here. Last one. This year, it's not costing us a whole lot. The City of Yuba City is only costing us about $2,600.
For the whole year?
So far this year, yeah.
No, but what was it last year and the year before?
Okay, so last year, take a look real quick. Last year, it cost us roughly $6,000.
6,000. And Live Oak and the campground over there?
For last year? You want last year's? Okay. 1 second.
I thought these numbers were a lot higher than.
Oh, sure. So the study that we did in 2020 with the joint study with Development Services, County Council, CAO's office, of all the boat launches combined, that includes Live Oak Park, the annual expenses were estimated to be about $245,000 to a high end of $350,000. And that really depends on what kind of damage could be happening.
Because it could vary from year to year.
Right, like with the road at Tisdale boat launch, that sort of thing. And then our annual income for all four was estimated to be between $25,000 to $60,000 a year. So roughly, you're looking at a $200,000 loss a year. This year, we've done a little bit better in collecting some of the revenues, so we're not in such bad shape, but we are losing money at all four of them.
Okay, so if we were to, let's say if we were to handle just the Teasdale and Wards, is it?
Tisdale and Boyd's.
Boyd's, that's it, yes.
Right. So we're still under obligation to run the Live Oak boat ramp, but we're not obligated to operate the park. And I think I have, so Tisdale, it looks like according to our study, the grant obligations, that expires in January of 2023, so just around the corner. Live Oak, that grant obligates us to operate that boat ramp until 2026. And then both Yuba City and Boyd's, the grant obligations expired in November of 2020.
How much does a campground cost?
So right now, the campground, ironically, is making us the most money. And that was, last year, last fiscal year, we housed fire evacuees. And so the state of California paid us roughly, I believe it was $9,000 in revenue. So that really helped the bottom line with Live Oak. But let me give you that exact number. So our unreimbursed costs were $25,000 at Live Oak Park and boat ramp, and we estimated, or I can give you the totals here. The use of the park, our revenues were $12,926, $13,000, and the boat launch fees were roughly $10,000. So we made more at the park than the boat launch.
But we've been discussing this for the last few years, so I know I have, right, about possibly doing away with, letting the Yuba City take care of their boat ramp and letting Live Oak see if they want to handle that boat ramp, just to even a savings of it seems like it could be a savings between 20 and 100,000 any given year.
Yeah, we could definitely save money by not operating those boat launches or the parks, but it's really a discussion that needs to be held with those agencies and their willingness. From everything in my experience dealing with this for the last few years, it doesn't seem like we have many takers.
Well,
no,
I'm sorry, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say the problem with this is we're trying to give something away that nobody wants. And in my early discussions with the city of Live Oak, I'm less than optimistic that they want to take this on. So that, I think, is the problem we face.
Well, but how is that fair to the taxpayers of Sutter County, and how is it fair to the firefighters and everyone else in every other department? See, I look at it as 5,000 here, 10,000 here, 20,000 here, 50,000. It adds up in the grand scheme of things. It's not just, at the end of the day, it's only 20,000. It adds up. And I think that's a discussion that we're going to have with them, with the city of Live Oak and the city of Yuba City, because we can go on and on. the partnership with the city in the library, partnership with the city in the museum. These are these discussions we have to have. We can't talk about these. We just got to sit down, and maybe we'll put this on the agenda for our next inter-city county meeting, which is going to be held next month, I believe. Yep. All right. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that.
Sure, you're welcome.
So,
Actually, there's one last thing, Leanne. In there, you brought up homeless.
Mm-hmm.
Right here, you got homeless. It's costing us just a little over 400,000.
homeless,
And the projected
that's the growth, I believe.
or growth. What I'm getting at is now with the city of Yuba City coming in, that number could go the other way, possibly, isn't it?
Very much, yeah.
Yes.
It's certainly, that the increase in homeless cost is due to the loss of grant funding. Not that it's just the grants ran out. And so having a partner to help to share that cost absolutely will reduce the net county cost in that program. Okay, so over time, the county has really made an effort to sustain a level of services and to try to maintain such crucial services as law enforcement. But the other side of that is it doesn't give us a lot of money to repair and maintain our buildings. And so we've had a lot of capital projects and building requests. Most of these are not included, as I mentioned earlier, in the budget as you see it right now. We do have a committed fund balance for capital projects, and we've been able to do things like replace roofs this year. And so I just wanted you to have a chance to see what's actually being requested. And I'll give you an example on here. The third item down, the clerk recorder, is the 2nd Street building upgrades and repairs. That building has a floor that's sinking, so it's not level. And it's got, antiquated restrooms there and different problems that are associated with a 100-year-old building. So we are not recommending to put $461,000 into that building. I just wanted you to see the kinds of requests that we got in full. So we haven't weeded out anything here. We have some things for security, the door access replacement, emergency operations center HVAC replacement, or data center HVAC replacement. Those are investments because they'll save us from losing data down the road, hopefully. We have some roof replacements. The Hall of Records, the board has specifically asked us about that. We've estimated that the cost to move back into there is about $300,000. So, the board could say, well, that's what we want to do, and so we would pick that up as a project. So anyway, I don't want to go through them one by one unless you have a specific question, but I have 2 pages of capital projects requests that we're working through. So here's the second page. Edel Hall had requested painting and flooring. The museum had requested for Edel Hall. The Boyd Street roof replacement, I think we're going to have to do. I think that many of our roofs are aging, and when we get the big rainstorms like we had, I think it was week before last, we find out, Supervisor Conant can attest to, we find out when we have roof problems because water and sealing material comes down on their desk.
Sorry, quick question in the museum.
Yeah, but
Maybe this might be for Neil Hayes. Now, doesn't the museum pay an impact fee too for as a home? When you're building a home, you have the library, and then you have, is it a museum as well for Yuba City? So when's the last time did they help out with the whole remodel? Is that where a lot of that came from? Okay. Do they write a check every year saying, hey, this is what we've come up with impact fees? What I'm getting at is it seems like I know that you could only use that funding for limited stuff, so maybe that $88,000 can come from Yuba City's impact fees. I mean, aren't they building 1,000 homes off of
The county has an impact fee that includes museums. So when we issue building permits and collect them, there's an impact fee for both the library and the museum.
But the city does not.
Not that I'm aware of.
Wow.
To the chair, I believe the city does have a library-specific one, though. Isn't that how they funded the recent project?
All right. Thank you.
And you can see that most of these would be general fund. So as we go through, we'll make recommendations later on in the year to what we'll be able to fund through the commitment for capital projects. We did have a request for an outdoor restroom at the Sheriff's Training Center, and we thought that would be a fairly simple project. It has turned out not to be so because of some problems with, I think it's the sewer line, right? And so that may be something that we have to address. And then the Sheriff's Data Center, that $512,000, also an area where the potential for loss is pretty great. So we may have to look at doing something there. So then we also have capital asset requests, and most of these are included in the budget. And so, we'll go through and scrub through these and just make sure that everything is absolutely necessary. But you can see there are about $80,000 in requests from the sheriff, including 3 canines. So they've requested a dog to help with cell extractions and dealing with narcotic searches within the cells. They've also asked for 2 replacement law enforcement canines, and they have committed fund balance that will pay for that. So really, the cost to the county would be for training and maintenance of those, I believe. Is that correct? Okay. And then they requested an ice machine for the medium jail. The medium jail, I believe, does not have air conditioning. It has swamp coolers, and so they think that the ice may be helpful in keeping things cool in there for the employees as well as the residents. General Services has asked for a dump trailer for homeless cleanup, and then Roads have asked for 2 pieces of equipment, 2 tractors, and those are paid for entirely with Roads funds. These are the vehicle requests, and I apologize for how small this is. There were a lot of vehicle requests, and these are the ones that come out of the general fund. You'll see up here that most of these are replacement vehicles. Many of them are high mileage vehicles, and fleet management assigns a number, which is not included on this chart, but they rank or rate their vehicles based on the cost of maintenance or repairs and the age of the vehicle. And everything that is being requested is a 16 or higher, I believe. So, certainly vehicles that need to be replaced. They're not just asking for something new because they want it. The most significant request in here is about $800,000 for the sheriff for 8 replacement vehicles. And they've not only requested the Ford Interceptors, the Explorers, but also some half-ton pickups, Ford F-150, that are a special police responder vehicle. And the reason for the difference there has to do with availability of the Explorers. Just getting those vehicles is very difficult, and so they've pivoted to something that they think will work equally well with them in their request. And then just a couple of small SUVs for code enforcement and building inspector are requested in development services. Mm-hmm. I believe they're Ford F-150 half-ton pickups. Well, there are some that are Explorers. Those are the full-size SUVs. Those are the, oh, I see. That's my mistake. I think I did a drag and drop on there. So I apologize. Those are Ford F-150s where you see Ford Explorers. Yeah. No, I apologize. That's mine, and I didn't catch that earlier. Good catch. Okay, so then we also had vehicles that have no general fund impact. Only one is not a replacement vehicle for HHS in the welfare budget. It's a Ford Escape, and it's paid for with the Home Safe grant. The rest are all paid for with separate funding, including roads fund and social services funding. And then these are the information technology requests that have general fund impact. The assessor, tax collector, or treasurer, tax collector, and auditor have asked for about $50,000 just on maintenance on the Aumentum property tax system, which my understanding is the system is working very, very well. I think they're very pleased with it. Behavioral health, public guardian, which is a net county cost, is also asking for panoramic software for accounting. So the two of those combined would be a general fund cost of about $166,000. The sheriff has asked for live scan peripheral replacement for both the dispatch area, or the I think that's budget unit 1600, right? And then also for the jail, I believe that equipment is currently at the end of its useful life, and so probably has to be replaced. The library has asked for firewall replacement. Probation has asked for, I think it's a Vigilon security camera system, and that's really mostly for their parking lot. And then public health has asked for county or department-wide Wi-Fi. And then these are the non-general fund IT requests. So behavioral health has asked also for the security camera system. They have some PC requests. They have other requests that you'll see listed on there. Those are all paid for out of behavioral health funds. There is no county general fund cost in our behavioral health department. Welfare has asked for certain replacements and refreshes. And then information technology, which is billed through the IT internal service fund. So it's billed out to the entire county, including general fund and non-general fund departments, has asked for a few things, not a huge request for them in this current year, but certainly a lot around information security. So then getting to position requests, these are the ones that have a general fund impact. The assessor's office has offered up a position to decrease from 1.0 FTE to 0.5 FTE for an assessment technician. The auditor controller has asked for a property tax manager, but will also delete an account clerk. The auditor controller and human resources share a position, and they both really have a full-time need for it. So that 0.45 would be increasing that up to a 1.0 FTE. And then you'll see in the line right below, there's a 0.55 that would increase the one for human resources up to a 1.0 FTE. In human resources, this one is an extremely crucial position. The accounting and human resources software that we're running right now is aging and breaking. And so it's kind of archaic software and cannot be fixed. And so we're having to do a lot of reconciliation manually, and we simply don't have enough people to do it. And what the consequence of that is sometimes employees are overbilled or underbilled for benefits, and then we can't just, if an employee is underbilled for benefits, we can't just say, oh, we billed you wrong, so we'll give you a pass on this. We don't have the authority to excuse that. And so we have to go back and collect that money back from the employees. It's not very pleasant. And so we want to make sure that we're getting this right. And so being able to reconcile is really important there. Human Resources has also asked for an assistant director of human resources. We're probably going to pull that and substitute it with something related to a proposed project to replace our accounting and human resources software system, which is called Workday. There is an office assistant that they're requesting to go just up to a full-time position from 0.5% to, or 0.5 FTE to 1 FTE. An assistant planner in planning and building, and some of that cost would be offset by fees. A building inspector to handle the workload that we have. Emergency Services has requested an emergency coordinator position. We currently have one emergency services manager. So when he goes on vacation, we really have no backup, and they do have a large workload there. And then they've also asked for a staff analyst in order to manage the grant funds, which we could be pulling in a lot more grant funds for our emergency services. Fire Services Administration has asked for an additional battalion chief, and the cost on there, the $256,869, also includes a battalion chief vehicle for about $90,000. And this would be back up to our fire chief. You know, we have times of the year when we are doing mutual aid, or we simply have people off, and it would provide some backup there. The jail has requested a correctional sergeant. This is in line with the sheriff's staffing study that was done, and they've offered up that they would delete a correctional technician, but the jail also has some savings from the food contract that the sheriff was able to get a better deal on the meals that are provided to the inmates. So that cost really is offset by that savings. And then Homeless Services has requested a social services aide because that's more in line with what they need, and then they would be deleting an office assistant in order to get that. So that's a net gain of $0. Public Health has requested a physical therapist. That's for the California Children's Services, and that is they provide medical therapy to children with disabilities. They've also requested a public assistance specialist, and would be deleting a medical clerk too in order to do that. So those are the general fund requests. The cost is $1.33 million, almost $1.34 million, and there is offsetting revenue of about $300,000 for a net of $1,047,000. So these are the non-general fund ones, and I'll go through these pretty quickly because they don't have a general fund impact. But behavioral health has asked for a total of 7 positions. They would be deleting 1 position, and these are in line with their business need. And 2 of the positions on there are for billing specialists, which would help them really to collect billing from people who are private pay or insurance, or make sure that Medi-Cal billing is done timely. Then they've requested an executive secretary, deleting an account clerk 3 and adding a medical clerk, and then a prevention services coordinator and another staff analyst.
Chair, can I have a quick question for you, Leanne? This just over $1 million in the general fund impact for position requests, is that included in the $63 million of the
Yes.
the total? It is included. Okay.
On the general fund.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And then social services has asked for some additional adult services, social workers, and a supervisor for that. And those are all funded by the state. So here's homelessness and the difference that we see in net county cost. The first year it was about $400,000, and we were able to offset that cost with CARES Act money. For the current fiscal year, we anticipate that the cost is going to be about $767,000. And you know, these are those ongoing efforts that we have. This is Better Way. This is the homeless staff trying to help people to get into permanent housing and permanent employment. This is, we continue to work with Harmony Village. As you know, we're working on the 60-day RV parking to see if RV parking is actually something that will help us with homeless parking their RVs on our city streets and county roads. The staff that support that include the housing support, the shelter staffing, our regional participation, and then the budget request does not really include development services time for cleanup, nor does it include the sheriff. Those are built into their respective budgets. So then finally I get to ARPA, and this year the Treasury changed the assumed increase that local governments should have in their revenue. and it went up quite substantially. So when we did the calculation over the 2 years, so we actually measure on a calendar year, but compare to the base year, which is 18-19, a fiscal year. But when we do the calculation, which takes binders, if you go into my office, you'll see binders of the calculation. But we believe that our revenue loss under Treasury's formula is about $29 million. So we are well above the $18.8 million that we were allocated from ARPA. So what the ARPA rules allow is for those funds, the revenue recovery funds, to be spent on governmental services, exclusive of increasing the reserves, of paying lump sum payments for pension debt, and for offsetting a tax decrease. So if the board many counties, the board sets the tax rate, and so if they had offered a decrease, you can't offset it for there. But other than that, the board really can use this as it sees fit. So the county's ARPA ad hoc committee, which is Supervisors Ziegenmeyer and Conant, met this morning, and we went over. We have commitments to date of $2.3 million in ARPA funding, and those were really in 3 major areas. Sorry, I'm trying to find my ARPA worksheet. But they were reimbursing us for a program that we did to support local businesses. That was about $900,000, about $1.25 million for cybersecurity, software and hardware, and then $150,000 for COVID testing that we've provided to the community. The board also negotiated about $700,000 worth of essential worker pay, and while that isn't included in the $2.3 million, that is a fund that is a cost that we could apply to the ARPA funding and offset our net county costs. So that would decrease that budget deficit by about $700,000, or almost a quarter of it. So, just as a reminder, the deadline to encumber funds is December 31st of 2024, so we still have a lot of time. And then all funds must be completely expended by December 31st, 2026. So our office will come back, based on our meeting this morning with the ARPA ad hoc committee, we'll come back in May with some recommendations for ARPA uses. And so you'll have a chance to discuss it further at that point. So with that, the next step is the budget book will be published, and that's the comprehensive budget. So you'll not only see the general fund budget, but you'll see the entire county budget with narratives for each budget unit and an overall budget message. That should be published on or by June 9th. And then the CAO's office comes back to the board for the budget presentation on June 14th. As I stated earlier, budget hearings start on June 20th with budget adoption anticipated for June 28th. So before I go on, I wanted to mention that the budget this is no easy document to put together. It requires hours and hours and hours of work. The departments start it, and they do a ton of work that goes into that. So we really have to thank our department heads and our fiscal staff. And then the budget gets turned into our office. And so Annie, Lou, and Laura Granados and I are charged with actually starting to comb through that budget, meeting with departments and refining it until we get to where we have the final budget package. So I really have to give a big thank you to the departments and the staff in the CAO's office for their dedication to this, because it is no small feat. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And it is 10 till 3. We made it.
Through the chair.
Supervisor?
I just want to say thank you. What an great workshop. Thanks for the information. I just want to thank you and your staff for doing an amazing job putting this together in a great presentation. I mean, I know that you guys have found a way to reduce that $3.2 million hold to drop another $750,000 this morning, and we've got time to make this thing balanced. But I just want to say thank you once again. Appreciate it. Your work.
Appreciate that.
Through the chair.
Supervisor.
Yeah, I want to say thank you also, Leanne, and also want to remind you and whoever's on the committee for the ARPA funds, don't forget about my broadband money in District 1, okay?
No, it was, like she said earlier, Supervisor Cohn and I sat in on that ARPA meeting, and it's, you know, I love having everyone show up to these budget hearings and so forth because, you know, it's very important. You know, this is going to be a big budget year. You saw earlier where Leanne talked about how their expectations for next year for tax revenue coming in. And I I think it's going to be because there's not going to be anything there to sell. I mean, there's not much out there anyways. You look at these car lots, tractor lots, manufacturing lots, there's just not enough out there. And so we're going to all have to work really hard together this upcoming year to make this work. And that's why every little bit's going to count, because we got to make sure we put the money in the right spots. All right, because at the end of the day, it is public safety. But we also have a huge behavioral health crisis going on here in Sutter County. And that is going to be huge. That's going to be near and dear to my heart. You look at homeless, that 75, well, these are the numbers that I looked up. 75% of women are homeless because of behavioral health. 25 to 30% of men because of behavioral health. And that branches on to other things in substance abuse and so forth. And we're all working on this. We all know there's an issue. You know, the numbers have doubled in substance abuse over the last 2 years. And so here we have to connect, but we also know that we have to find money somewhere to put in the right spots and the right people in the right spots to make this work. Because we can't continue to go the path that we are. It's just not working. The homeless is getting out of control. And we're working on these tools. That's why we're working with the City of Yuba-City. We have these monthly meetings with the City of Yuba-City. We have when is our meeting with the city? Is it the big forum we're having? It's going to be right here.
Tentatively, yeah, for the either May 15th or 16th.
Yes.
I think the 16th.
Yeah. So I'm excited for that. But I want to thank you for showing up today. We really appreciate it. It's going to be a big, every budget is huge, but I think this is going to be real crucial this year, especially because we don't know what's going to happen next year the way things are going. But thank you. Have a great day, and we will adjourn the meeting.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at PlumasLakeSelfStorage.com.